7 men, billions of fans, 0 confirmed relationships. BTS has spent over a decade under some of the most intense public scrutiny any human beings have ever faced. Their meals get photographed. Their airport outfits trend worldwide. A single Instagram follow can spark weeks of speculation. And yet, when it comes to romance, complete silence. Here's what makes it strange. This isn't just about keeping things from fans. Reports and insider accounts suggest the members have, at times, kept their romantic lives hidden even from Hybe, the very company that manages nearly every aspect of their existence. Why would 7 of the most famous people on the planet go to such lengths to guard this one part of their lives? Is it fear, strategy, or something far more personal than most people realize? The answers aren't simple, and they aren't all what you'd expect. Some involve cold business logic. Others reveal the harsh realities of an industry that sells intimacy as a product. And one reason, the one sitting at number 1, might genuinely change how you see these 7 men. Let's get into it. Number 7. Strict contracts restricting personal freedom. If you want to understand why BTS members guard their romantic lives so fiercely, you need to start where everything in K-pop begins: the contract. In South Korea's entertainment industry, artist contracts aren't simply agreements about album releases, touring schedules, and revenue splits. K-pop contracts, historically and still to a significant degree today, function more like comprehensive lifestyle agreements. They govern what artists can do, where they can go, how they present themselves publicly, and yes, who they can be seen with romantically. Hybe, formerly known as Big Hit Entertainment, has generally been regarded as one of the more progressive agencies in the industry. Bang Hyuk, the company's founder, has spoken publicly about wanting to create an environment where artists have more creative freedom than what was traditionally offered by the big 3 agencies, SM, YG, and JYP Entertainment. And to be fair, BTS has enjoyed levels of creative input that many K-pop acts can only dream of. They write their own lyrics, they contribute to production, they have a say in their visual concepts. But creative freedom and personal freedom are 2 very different things. The standard K-pop contract, often referred to as a slave contract by critics, a term that gained widespread traction after the TVXQ lawsuit against SM Entertainment in 2009, typically includes clauses that restrict or regulate an idol's dating life. Some contracts outright ban romantic relationships for a set number of years, particularly during the early stages of an artist's career. Others don't explicitly ban dating, but include morality clauses or image maintenance provisions that effectively achieve the same result. If a relationship becomes public and damages the group's brand, the agency can invoke these clauses to impose penalties. What kind of penalties? The range is broad. Financial penalties are the most common, essentially fines deducted from the artist's earnings. But the consequences can extend further: reduced promotional activities, fewer solo opportunities, being quietly sidelined in group projects. In extreme cases, contract termination, which in K-pop doesn't just mean losing your job. It can mean losing years of training investment that the agency may demand you repay. Now, Hybe has never publicly confirmed the specific dating-related clauses in BTS's contracts. The company doesn't release contract details to the public, and the members themselves have never explicitly discussed this aspect. But the broader industry pattern is well documented, and multiple former K-pop idols from various agencies have spoken openly about the restrictions they faced. Former Kara member Nicole Jang, in interviews after leaving DSP Media, discussed the pressures of contract restrictions on personal life. Former Tiara member Hwaevang has spoken about the controlling nature of agency contracts. And perhaps most notably, the 2017 documentary I Am SM Town gave viewers a rare inside look at how deeply agencies embed themselves into their artists' personal decisions. The legal landscape did shift somewhat in 2017 when South Korea's Fair Trade Commission revised its standard exclusive contract for entertainment agencies. The revisions were designed to address some of the most exploitative practices, limiting contract lengths, ensuring more transparent accounting, and providing clearer terms around personal freedoms. But industry insiders have repeatedly noted that the gap between what contracts say on paper and how agencies actually operate can be significant. For BTS specifically, their contract history adds another layer. The group renewed their contract with Big Hit in 2018, well before the company rebranded as Hybe, and before BTS reached their absolute commercial peak. At the time, the renewal was seen as a massive show of loyalty. The members reportedly turned down significantly larger offers from other agencies. But the terms of that renewal have never been made public. What we do know is that the members signed again in 2024, this time reportedly with more favorable terms reflecting their status. Whether those terms included relaxed personal life clauses remains unknown. Here's what is clear, though. The BTS members are not naive about how contracts work. They entered the industry as teenagers, several of them after years of grueling trainee life. They watched other trainees get cut. They experienced Big Hit's near bankruptcy in the early years. They understand, perhaps better than anyone in the current generation of K-pop, that their careers exist within a contractual framework that doesn't always prioritize their personal happiness. Suga, never one to sugarcoat reality, has referenced in multiple interviews and in his solo work the pressures of the industry's structural demands on personal identity. RM has spoken philosophically about the tension between his public persona and private self. These aren't men who are unaware of the system they operate in. They're men who have learned to navigate it strategically. And that strategic navigation includes a calculation about romance. Even if Hybe's current contracts don't explicitly forbid dating, and again, we don't know the exact terms, the members understand that revealing a relationship creates risk. Not just emotional risk, but financial and professional risk. A single confirmed relationship could trigger contract review discussions, affect endorsement deals worth millions of dollars, and shift the internal power dynamics between artist and agency. Consider BTS's endorsement portfolio alone. Samsung, Louis Vuitton, Hyundai, McDonald's. These partnerships are built on carefully crafted brand alignment. Each of these companies signed deals based on BTS's public image as it existed at the time of signing. A sudden shift in that image, including a confirmed romantic relationship that generates negative fan reaction, could theoretically give corporate partners grounds to renegotiate or withdraw. So when you ask why BTS members hide their relationships, the contract isn't just a piece of paper somewhere in a filing cabinet. It's the architecture of their professional lives. Every public appearance, every social media post, every interaction with fans exists within its boundaries. And romance, the most unpredictable, uncontrollable aspect of any person's life, is the one variable that could most easily disrupt the carefully maintained balance. The contract doesn't just restrict, it creates an environment where hiding becomes the rational choice, where secrecy isn't rebellion, it's compliance by another name. But contracts are only one piece of the puzzle, because even without strict clauses, the BTS members have another powerful reason to stay silent, and it comes from watching what happened to the idols who didn't. Number 6. Trauma from other idols' dating scandals. In K-pop, dating scandals don't just make headlines, they end careers. And the BTS members haven't just read about this in passing, they've watched it happen to people they know, colleagues, seniors, friends, in real time. That kind of front-row education leaves a mark, and it shapes behavior in ways that go far deeper than any contract clause ever could. To understand why, you need to look at the history, and the history is brutal. Let's start with one of the most well-known cases, Hyuna and E'Dawn. In 2018, Hyuna, one of K-pop's biggest solo stars, and Edan, a member of the boy group Pentagon, confirmed they were dating. They didn't get caught, they chose to go public, believing that honesty was the right path. The response from their agency, Cube Entertainment, was swift. Both were removed from the company's roster. Edan was pulled from Pentagon's activities. Hyuna, despite being one of Cube's most profitable artists, was effectively let go. The couple eventually signed with P Nation, Psy's label, but Edan's group promotions were permanently disrupted, and Hyona's career trajectory took a measurable hit in the Korean market. They told the truth, and the industry punished them for it. Then there's the case of Chen from EXO. In January 2020, Chen, real name Kim Jong-dae, announced that he was not only in a relationship, but that his fiancée was pregnant. For most people on the planet, this would be cause for celebration. In K-pop, it triggered a crisis. A subset of EXO's fandom organized protests demanding Chen's removal from the group. They rented trucks with LED displays to park outside SM Entertainment's headquarters, displaying messages calling for his departure. They filed formal petitions. Online, the vitriol was relentless. SM Entertainment kept Chen in the group, but his solo activities were significantly reduced for an extended period, and the internal fandom division persisted for years. Chen did nothing wrong by any reasonable human standard. He fell in love, committed to his partner, and was starting a family. But in the K-pop ecosystem, that was enough to fracture a fandom and reshape his career. The list goes on. Kai from EXO and Blackpink's Jennie had their relationship exposed by Dispatch, South Korea's infamous paparazzi outlet, in January 2019. The fallout was immediate. Both artists faced intense online scrutiny, with fans on both sides engaging in hostile exchanges. The relationship eventually ended, and while neither artist's career was destroyed, the experience demonstrated how a confirmed relationship becomes public property the moment it's revealed. Every interaction, every social media post, every schedule change gets reinterpreted through the lens of, are they still together? Dispatch, by the way, deserves its own mention here. The outlet has built its entire business model around exposing celebrity relationships, typically dropping major dating revelations on January 1st of each new year, a tradition so established that Korean celebrities reportedly dread New Year's Day. Dispatch uses long-term surveillance, paparazzi photography, and insider tips to build their stories. The fact that an entire media operation exists specifically to expose idols' romantic lives tells you everything about the environment BTS operates in. But it's not just high-profile cases that shape BTS's thinking, it's the quieter ones too. The idols whose dating news broke during comeback periods, killing the momentum of an album release. The artists who lost endorsement deals within days of a relationship confirmation. The trainees who were let go before they even debuted because they were caught dating during their training period. BTS debuted in 2013 under Big Hit Entertainment, which was then a small, struggling company. They didn't have the safety net of a massive agency behind them. In those early years, every decision carried existential weight. One wrong move, one scandal, one public relations disaster could have ended everything. They watched the industry around them with sharp eyes, and they learned its rules not from textbooks, but from casualties. And the learning wasn't abstract. BTS has interacted with, performed alongside, and shared stages with many of the idols who went through dating scandals. They've seen the emotional toll up close, the public apologies that shouldn't have been necessary, the tears at press conferences, the way an artist's entire body of work gets overshadowed by tabloid coverage of who they're sleeping with. There's a particular dynamic in K-pop that makes dating scandals especially destructive. The compressed news cycle meets permanent internet memory. When a dating scandal breaks, it dominates Korean social media, Naver, Pan, The Quoo, for days or even weeks. The comment sections become battlegrounds, fan forums split into factions, and even after the initial storm passes, the information lives forever online, resurfacing every time the idol does anything public. A dating scandal in K-pop doesn't blow over. It becomes a permanent footnote attached to everything that comes after. The BTS members are acutely aware of this permanence. RM, who is widely regarded as one of the most intellectually engaged idols in the industry, has spoken in various settings about the weight of public perception and the way narratives, once established, become almost impossible to change. Jimin has discussed the anxiety of living under constant observation. V, whose every social media interaction gets dissected by millions, understands perhaps better than any of them how quickly innocent actions get twisted into scandal fodder. What this creates is a collective institutional memory within the group. They don't need to be told not to go public with relationships. They've absorbed that lesson organically through years of watching the pattern repeat. Idol dates, news breaks, chaos follows, career suffers. The pattern is so consistent that it functions almost like a natural law within the industry. And here's the part that makes it genuinely sad. The lesson these men have internalized isn't be careful who you date. It's love is a liability. In an industry that sells romantic fantasy to millions, actual romance is treated as a threat. The BTS members didn't arrive at secrecy through paranoia. They arrived at it through evidence. But even if the industry were more forgiving, even if scandals didn't carry career-ending weight, there's another reason the members stay silent, and this one isn't about protecting themselves at all. Number 5. Protecting their partners from toxic fans. Everything we've talked about so far has been about the consequences BTS members would face: contractual risks, career damage, public backlash. But this point is different. This one isn't about them. It's about the person standing next to them in private, the person's name the world doesn't know, and the very real danger that comes with that name becoming public. Because in K-pop, when an idol's partner is identified, that person's life can change overnight, and almost never for the better. The BTS fandom, ARMY, is by virtually every metric the largest and most organized fan community in the world. As of the mid-2020s, BTS-related social media accounts generate billions of interactions annually. ARMY has broken streaming records, funded charitable campaigns worth millions of dollars, and mobilized around social causes with a speed and coordination that has drawn comparisons to political movements. The fandom's power is genuinely unprecedented in entertainment history. And the vast majority of ARMY members are exactly what you'd hope a fan community would be: passionate, supportive, creative, and deeply respectful of the members' well-being. That needs to be said clearly, because what comes next isn't about the fandom as a whole. It's about the margins. And in a fandom of tens of millions, the margins still represent a lot of people. The phenomenon of sasaeng fans, obsessive fans who engage in stalking, privacy invasion, and harassment, is well documented in K-pop. The term comes from the Korean word sasaeng, meaning private life, and it refers to fans who cross every reasonable boundary in pursuit of closeness to their idols. Sasaeng behavior includes following idols' private vehicles, obtaining and selling their personal phone numbers, showing up at their residences, and in some cases, physically intruding into their private spaces. BTS has dealt with sasaeng fans throughout their career. In 2020, Big Hit Entertainment issued a formal statement warning that it would take legal action against individuals who invaded the members' privacy. The company specifically cited incidents involving unauthorized tracking, attempts to contact members through private channels, and physical approaches during non-public schedules. This wasn't a preventative announcement, it was a response to things that had already happened. Now, imagine introducing a romantic partner into that environment. The precedent is already established. When other K-pop idols' relationships have been exposed, their partners, who are often private citizens with no connection to the entertainment industry, have been subjected to relentless harassment. Social media accounts get flooded with hateful messages. Personal information gets dug up and circulated, a practice known as doxing. Workplace information gets shared. Family members get targeted. In South Korea, where online communities like the Q and Pan Nate can amplify narratives at terrifying speed, a private person can become a national talking point within hours. One of the most disturbing examples involves a non-celebrity partner of a well-known idol whose personal photos, home address, and workplace were shared across multiple online platforms within 48 hours of the relationship becoming public. The individual received thousands of threatening messages and was eventually forced to change jobs and relocate. This isn't an isolated incident, it's a recurring pattern that the Korean entertainment press has reported on extensively. The BTS members understand this pattern because they've lived on the other side of it. They know what it feels like to have every aspect of their existence scrutinized, analyzed, and judged. The difference is that they chose this life, or at least they chose it as teenagers who may not have fully understood what it would become. Their partners didn't choose it at all. There's a particular cruelty to the way K-pop fan culture can turn on an idol's partner. The hostility often isn't random, it follows a specific logic rooted in parasocial relationships. A significant subset of fans, across all fandoms and not just ARMY, develop one-sided emotional bonds with idols that mimic the psychology of real romantic relationships. Research published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships has documented how parasocial relationships can generate genuine feelings of jealousy, possessiveness, and betrayal when the relationship is perceived to be threatened. A confirmed real-life partner represents the ultimate threat to that parasocial bond. This means the person an idol dates doesn't just face generic online hate, they face the concentrated emotional reaction of people who feel, on some psychological level, that their relationship has been violated. That's a fundamentally different kind of hostility than ordinary gossip culture, and it produces fundamentally different levels of intensity. The BTS members have every reason to take this threat seriously. Their level of fame exceeds that of virtually every other K-pop act, which means the intensity of parasocial attachment among their fan base is proportionally amplified. V's personal Instagram amassed tens of millions of followers within hours of its creation. When he was photographed in proximity to Blackpink's Jennie in 2023, the online response was so intense that both artists' agencies were compelled to respond. And that was a situation involving another public figure, someone with her own security infrastructure, public relations team, and legal resources. A private citizen would have none of those protections. The members have also shown, through their own words and actions, that they care deeply about the people close to them. Jungkook has spoken about his desire to protect the people he loves from the pressures of his fame. Jin, the eldest, has consistently emphasized the importance of keeping certain things private, not out of shame, but out of care. Suga's introspective lyrics frequently touch on the burden his fame places on personal relationships. This isn't speculation about their motivations, it's a straightforward reading of their own statements combined with the observable reality of what happens when an idol's partner enters the public eye. The calculation is simple, and it's heartbreaking in its clarity. The person I love will be safer if nobody knows they exist. That's not a cynical strategy. It's an act of protection born from watching over and over again what happens when that protection fails. So, the members stay silent, not because they don't care about their partners, but precisely because they do. Silence is the shield they can offer when their fame is the weapon being used against the people closest to them. But protecting individuals is one thing. There's also the question of what a revealed relationship could do to the group itself, the collective unit that all 7 members have built their lives around.
BTS is not just a group. It's a unit forged through shared hardship, and every member knows that the bond between them is the single most valuable asset they possess, more valuable than any record deal, endorsement contract, or streaming milestone. That bond didn't come easily. and the members have spent over a decade making sure nothing breaks it. To understand why romance becomes a group concern and not just a personal one, you need to go back to the beginning. BTS debuted on June 13, 2013, under Big Hit Entertainment, a company so small and financially unstable that the group's survival was never guaranteed. The 7 members lived together in a cramped dormitory in Seoul's Non-Hyundong neighborhood. They shared rooms, meals, anxieties, and the very real possibility that their careers could end before they ever truly started. In early interviews, the members have spoken candidly about the arguments, the frustrations, and the moments of doubt that marked those early years. But they also speak about what came out of that pressure, a level of trust and interdependence that goes beyond professional collaboration. RM has described the group dynamic as something closer to family than a working relationship. Suga, in his 2023 documentary, Road to D-Day, reflected on how the members' shared struggles created bonds that couldn't be replicated. J-Hope has spoken about how the group's unity was the foundation on which everything else, the music, the performances, the global success, was built. This unity isn't just emotional. It's operational. BTS functions as a collective in ways that most pop groups don't. Major decisions about music direction, public statements, career moves are discussed among all 7 members. Their 2018 contract renewal with Big Hit was reportedly a group decision, with all 7 choosing to stay together rather than pursue potentially more lucrative individual deals elsewhere. When they announced their focus on solo activities in 2022, they did it together, in a filmed conversation during their annual Festa dinner, making clear that even stepping back from group work was a collective choice. Now place a romantic relationship inside that dynamic, and the complications become immediately apparent. In any high-functioning team, whether it's a sports team, a military unit, or a business partnership, the introduction of external romantic relationships creates new variables. Attention gets divided. Schedules get complicated. Emotional energy that was previously directed inward toward the group now flows outward. This isn't a moral judgment, it's an observable pattern in group dynamics that organizational psychologists have studied extensively. In BTS's case, the stakes are amplified by the sheer intensity of their schedule and the volume of their commitments. During peak activity periods, BTS members have maintained workloads that would be considered extreme by any industry standard. Album production, world tours spanning dozens of cities across multiple continents, variety show appearances, fan meeting events, endorsement obligations, United Nations speeches, solo projects, all running simultaneously. The logistics alone require a level of coordination that depends on every member being fully aligned and available. A known romantic relationship introduces friction into that system. Not because love makes someone less professional, but because the industry treats it as a variable that needs to be managed. If Hybe knows a member is in a relationship, that information enters the company's decision-making calculus. Tour scheduling might be adjusted. Room arrangements could change. Media training sessions might include new protocols for handling relationship questions. Suddenly, something personal becomes institutional, and the member loses control over how it's handled. More critically, if only one member's relationship becomes known while others remain private, it creates an asymmetry within the group. That member becomes the focal point of media attention in a way that's disconnected from the group's actual work. Press conferences become dominated by relationship questions instead of music questions. Variety show appearances get derailed by hosts fishing for romantic details. The member with the known relationship becomes, in the public eye, defined by that relationship rather than by their contribution to the group. BTS has seen this pattern play out in other groups. When individual members of K-pop groups have been caught in dating scandals, the ripple effects extended to the entire group. Comeback promotions got overshadowed. Fan attention fractured between those who supported the member and those who didn't. Group V-Lives and fan interactions became minefields where any wrong word could reignite controversy. The group's collective identity, the thing that fans are ultimately investing in, got diluted. The BTS members are strategically aware of this risk. They've built their brand around the concept of 7. The number appears in their imagery, their lyrics, their fan interactions. The phrase 7 or nothing isn't just a slogan. It reflects a genuine operating philosophy. Anything that pulls attention away from the group unit, that singles out one member for reasons unrelated to their artistic output, works against the identity they've carefully constructed. There's also an interpersonal dimension that's rarely discussed. Within any close-knit group, one member's romantic relationship can subtly alter group dynamics even in private. Time spent with a partner is time not spent with the group. Conversations shift. Inside references change. New loyalties, however minor, emerge. The BTS members, having lived together for years and having navigated the intense pressures of global fame as a unit, are likely highly attuned to these subtle shifts. Keeping relationships private, even from each other in some cases, may be a way of preserving the equilibrium that allows them to function as a cohesive whole. J-Hope touched on this dynamic indirectly during a 2021 Weverse interview, noting that the members make conscious efforts to maintain their group connection even as their individual lives naturally diverge with age and solo pursuits. The implication was clear. The bond requires active maintenance, and anything that could introduce unnecessary strain gets handled with care. This is where hiding relationships from Hybe becomes specifically strategic. If the agency doesn't know, the agency can't manage it. If the agency can't manage it, it doesn't become an institutional issue that affects group scheduling, marketing strategies, or public communications. The relationship stays in the personal domain, where the member can control it on their own terms, without it becoming a factor in business meetings about the group's direction. The members aren't hiding from each other out of distrust. They're managing the boundary between personal life and group life with the precision of people who understand that their greatest strength has always been their unity. But that management raises another question, one that cuts deeper. If the members are keeping things from Hybe, is it possible they don't fully trust the company to handle that information responsibly? Number 3. Distrust of the agency's internal system. On the surface, the relationship between BTS and Hybe looks like one of the great success stories in entertainment history. A small company bet everything on 7 teenagers. Those teenagers became the biggest act on the planet, and both sides prospered. Bang Si-hyuk built Hybe into a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. BTS became cultural icons. Everybody won. But behind every successful partnership, there are tensions that don't make it into the press releases. And one of those tensions, quietly, persistently, is the question of trust when it comes to personal information. The South Korean entertainment industry has a well-documented problem with information leaks. Private details about celebrities, dating lives, medical records, family situations, financial disputes have repeatedly found their way from inside agency walls to the desks of reporters and the screens of gossip sites. And the source, more often than not, isn't sophisticated hacking or brilliant investigative journalism. It's someone on the inside talking. This isn't conspiracy. It's pattern. In 2019, the Burning Sun scandal, one of the largest celebrity scandals in South Korean history, revealed among many things the extent to which private information circulated freely among entertainment industry insiders. Group chats between agency staff, managers, and industry figures contained personal details about artists that those artists had never consented to share. The scandal didn't just expose criminal behavior. It pulled back the curtain on an industry culture where confidential information was treated as social currency. The same year, former YG Entertainment employees were reported to have leaked information about Blackpink members' personal schedules and private movements to outside parties. In 2021, SM Entertainment faced scrutiny after personal details about several of its artists appeared in media reports that could only have originated from internal sources. These aren't isolated incidents scattered across decades. They're part of a recurring institutional failure across the Korean entertainment industry. Hybe itself hasn't been immune to information management concerns. As the company grew, acquiring Pledis Entertainment, Source Music, KZ Entertainment, and others, while also expanding into gaming, education, and technology ventures. The number of people with access to BTS-related information expanded dramatically. What was once a tight-knit operation where big-hit staff could be counted in the dozens became a sprawling corporate entity with thousands of employees across multiple subsidiaries and international offices. Every new employee, every new subsidiary, every new partnership creates another potential vector for information leakage. Not because people are necessarily malicious, though that happens too, but because information security in large organizations is inherently difficult to maintain. A manager mentions something to a colleague. A staff member tells a friend. A contractor sees a scheduling document they shouldn't have access to. The chain from confidential to public knowledge can be remarkably short. The BTS members have experienced the consequences of information leakage firsthand, even outside the romantic context. Private travel schedules have appeared on fan tracking accounts before official announcements. Personal phone numbers have been obtained and circulated among sightseeing networks. Details about individual members' whereabouts during off-duty periods have surfaced online with a specificity that strongly suggests insider knowledge rather than external surveillance. In 2020, Hybe, then still big hit, acknowledged the severity of the problem by announcing enhanced security measures and legal action against individuals who leaked artist information. The fact that such an announcement was necessary tells its own story. You don't fortify a wall that hasn't been breached. Now consider the calculus from a BTS member's perspective. You're one of the most famous people alive. You've managed, against considerable odds, to maintain a private romantic relationship. The only people who know are the ones you've personally chosen to tell. The moment you share that information with your agency, it enters a corporate information system. It gets documented. It becomes known to managers, scheduling coordinators, PR teams, legal departments. Each of those people has their own networks, their own pressures, their own vulnerabilities. Even if every single person at Hybe acted with perfect integrity, and in a company of that size, that's a statistically unlikely assumption, the systemic risk remains. One careless conversation in a coffee shop. One unlocked phone screen on a subway. One disgruntled former employee with a grudge and a reporter's phone number. The more people who know a secret, the less it functions as a secret. This is basic information theory, and the BTS members don't need a security briefing to understand it. There's also a subtler dimension to this distrust. Hybe is not just BTS's management company, it's a publicly traded corporation listed on the Korea Exchange since October 2020. As a public company, Hybe has fiduciary obligations to its shareholders. Its decision-making is influenced not just by what's best for its artists, but by what's best for the company's stock price, quarterly earnings, and market positioning. This creates a potential conflict of interest that the BTS members are almost certainly aware of. If Hybe knows a member is in a relationship, the company might not just passively hold that information. It might actively manage it, timing a potential public disclosure to minimize market impact, coordinating with PR teams to prepare media responses, possibly even leveraging the information strategically during periods when positive news flow is needed. The member's private life becomes a corporate asset to be managed rather than a personal matter to be respected. RM alluded to this broader tension, without specifically referencing romance, during BTS's 2022 Festa dinner, where the members spoke with unusual candor about the conflicts between their personal needs and the demands of the industry machinery surrounding them. The conversation revealed a group of men who were deeply aware of the gap between being individuals and being products, and who were actively grappling with how to preserve the former while fulfilling the obligations of the latter. Keeping romantic information from Hybe, then, isn't necessarily an act of defiance. It's an act of risk management. The members aren't saying, "We don't trust you." They're saying, "We understand how information works in this industry, and we've chosen to minimize our exposure." It's the same instinct that makes anyone cautious about sharing sensitive personal details in a workplace, amplified by a factor of global fame and corporate complexity. The trust issue is real, but it's also rational. And it connects directly to the next reason, which addresses something even more structurally embedded in how the K-pop industry operates, the deliberate construction of romantic fantasy as a business model. Number 2. Pressure from the boyfriend material image. Here's the uncomfortable truth that sits at the center of the K-pop business model. You're not just buying music. You're buying a relationship. Not a real one, obviously, but one that's been engineered with remarkable precision to feel real, or at least real enough that millions of people invest emotionally, financially, and psychologically in maintaining it. And BTS, whether they designed it that way or not, sits at the apex of this system. The concept is called fan service, and in K-pop it operates on a scale and with a sophistication that has no true parallel in Western entertainment. Fan service encompasses everything from the way idols speak directly to fans during live broadcasts, using intimate language, maintaining eye contact with the camera, whispering goodnight, to the structured parasocial interaction platforms that have become central to the industry's revenue model. Weverse, Hybe's proprietary fan communication platform, is the most relevant example for BTS. Through Weverse, members post personal updates, respond to fan comments, and share moments from their daily lives. The platform is designed to create an atmosphere of intimacy, the feeling that there's a direct, personal connection between each fan and each member. When Jungkook posts a late-night selfie with a casual caption, when V shares a song recommendation as if he's talking to a close friend, when Jimin writes a heartfelt message to ARMY, these interactions aren't accidental. They exist within a carefully architected engagement ecosystem that drives app downloads, subscription revenue, and brand loyalty. Then there's the content layer. BTS's variety content Run BTS in the SOP, Bon Voyage consistently frames the members in domestic, relatable settings. Cooking together. Playing games. Having quiet conversations by a campfire. The visual language of this content borrows heavily from the aesthetics of romantic relationships, shared meals, comfortable silences, playful bickering, moments of vulnerability. Viewers aren't just watching entertainers. They're watching what feels like a window into a relationship. The boyfriend material concept goes even deeper in Korean fan culture through a specific mechanism, the concept of ending fairy. During music show performances, cameras frequently single out individual members for close-up shots at the end of a performance, slow motion, direct eye contact, often with a wink or smile aimed straight at the lens. These moments are edited, GIF'd, and shared millions of times. They're designed to create a flash of personal connection, a split second where the viewer feels chosen. This entire apparatus generates enormous economic value. According to Hybe's financial disclosures, fan engagement platforms and related content represent a significant and growing portion of the company's revenue. BTS-related merchandise, including photo cards that fans collect and trade, often spending hundreds of dollars to obtain specific members' cards, relies on emotional attachment. The photo card market alone has become a substantial secondary economy, with rare cards selling for premium prices precisely because they represent a perceived personal connection to a specific member. Now consider what happens when one of these members confirms a real romantic partner. The economic logic is stark. The entire system described above is built on availability, not sexual availability, but emotional availability. The implicit promise is, this person's emotional world is accessible to you. A confirmed partner fundamentally disrupts that promise. The late-night Weverse posts suddenly read differently. The ending fairy shots feel performative rather than personal. The domestic content that felt like a private window now has an obvious absence. Where's the person they actually share these moments with? This isn't theoretical. Market analysis of K-pop idol dating announcements has consistently shown measurable impacts on related revenue streams. Album pre-orders, fan event ticket sales, merchandise purchases, and platform engagement metrics all show sensitivity to dating news. The impact varies by group and by fandom, but the direction is consistent. Confirmed relationships correlate with at least short-term declines in parasocial engagement metrics. The BTS members understand this because they live inside the machine. They see the numbers. They participate in the content creation. They know that when they look into a camera during a live broadcast and say, "I missed you" to ARMY, those words carry economic weight measured in millions of dollars across merchandise, streaming, and platform revenue. This awareness creates a genuinely painful double bind. On one side, there are real human emotions, love, companionship, the desire for partnership. On the other side, there's the knowledge that acknowledging those emotions publicly would damage not just their own economic interests, but the livelihoods of everyone connected to the BTS enterprise: staff, producers, choreographers, stylists, managers. The hundreds of people whose employment depends on BTS's continued commercial viability. Suga addressed this tension, obliquely but unmistakably, in his solo work. His 2023 album, D-Day, explored themes of identity fracture, the gap between the public persona and the private self, and the exhaustion of performing intimacy as labor. The track People PT2, a collaboration with IU, dealt explicitly with the impossibility of genuine human connection under the weight of public expectation. These aren't abstract artistic themes. They're autobiographical reflections from a man navigating the exact contradiction we're describing. Jimin, too, has spoken about the emotional complexity of fan relationships. In a 2022 interview with Rolling Stone, he described the genuine love he feels for ARMY while also acknowledging the weight of the responsibility that comes with it. The subtext was clear: the emotional labor of maintaining parasocial intimacy at BTS's scale is real, constant, and not entirely voluntary. The boyfriend material image isn't something the members can simply opt out of. It's woven into every aspect of their public existence: their styling, their content, their interaction platforms, their marketing. To publicly claim a romantic partner would be to unravel threads that hold together a significant portion of their commercial identity. And the members know, because they've been doing this for over a decade, that the industry won't rebuild that identity for them. They'll simply be expected to manage the fallout. So they keep quiet. Not because they enjoy the deception, but because the system has made honesty extraordinarily expensive. And yet, underneath all of these strategic, economic, and professional reasons, there's one more. The deepest one. The one that has nothing to do with contracts, scandals, fans, group dynamics, corporate trust, or market economics, and everything to do with being human. Number 1. The desire to have one thing that is truly their own. Strip away the contracts. Forget the scandals, the toxic fans, the group dynamics, the corporate leaks, the boyfriend image. Set aside every strategic calculation we've discussed. What's left is something that doesn't need a business case or a risk assessment to justify. It's the most basic human need there is. The need to have something that belongs only to you. Consider, for a moment, what it actually means to live as a member of BTS. Not the glamorous version, the private jets, the sold-out stadiums, the Grammy nominations. The actual, daily, operational reality of being one of 7 men whose existence has been public property since they were teenagers. Their mornings are documented. Their meals are photographed and analyzed: what they eat, how much, whether they've lost or gained weight. Their fashion choices become news articles. Their haircuts trend on Twitter. Their airport arrivals are tracked by hundreds of fans and dozens of cameras. Their hotel locations are identified and shared online within hours. Their friendships are dissected for hidden meanings. Their facial expressions during public events are freeze-framed, zoomed in on, and interpreted by millions of strangers who believe they can read emotions from a pixelated screenshot. This has been their reality for over a decade. Since 2013, when most of them were still teenagers, Jungkook was 15 years old at debut, their lives have been progressively consumed by public visibility. The dormitory years meant sharing physical space with 6 other people and a rotating cast of staff and cameras. The rise to fame meant sharing their emotional space with an exponentially growing audience. The transition to global superstardom meant sharing their psychological space with a world that felt entitled to access every corner of it. BTS has been remarkably generous with that access. Their documentary series, Burn the Stage, Break the Silence, BTS Monuments, Beyond the Star, have shown the members in moments of genuine vulnerability. Crying backstage. Arguing about creative direction. Struggling with the pressure of expectation. Questioning whether they can continue. These aren't manufactured moments of reality television drama. They're real fragments of real lives, offered to fans as acts of trust. They've shared their mental health struggles publicly at a time when doing so in South Korean culture still carried significant stigma. Suga has spoken openly about his battle with depression and the social anxiety that preceded his career. RM has discussed the identity crisis that came with global fame. Jimin has been candid about the physical and emotional toll of performance standards. Jin, during his military service period, communicated with fans with a warmth and consistency that blurred the line between public obligation and genuine personal connection. They've given so much. And that's precisely why what they've kept back matters so profoundly. In psychology, the concept of identity boundaries refers to the internal lines people draw between what they share with the world and what they reserve for themselves. These boundaries aren't luxuries. They're structural necessities for psychological health. Research consistently shows that individuals who lack private psychological space, who feel that every aspect of their inner life is observed, evaluated, and subject to external judgment, experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and what psychologists call identity diffusion, a state where the sense of self becomes fragmented and unstable. For most people, maintaining these boundaries is effortless. You go home, close the door, and your private life is private. Nobody is analyzing your grocery receipts. Nobody is tracking your car. Nobody cares who you had dinner with last Tuesday. BTS doesn't have that. The door doesn't close. Or rather, the door closes, but millions of people are pressing their ears against it, and a well-funded media apparatus exists specifically to pry it open. In that context, a romantic relationship isn't just a relationship. It's the last room in the house that hasn't been open to visitors. It's the one space where a BTS member can be not RM, not Suga, not Jin, not J-Hope, not Jimin, not V, not Jungkook, but Kim Namjoon, Min Youngi, Kim Seokjin, Young Hoseok, Park Jimin, Kim Taeyoung, John Jeonguk. The person behind the name the world knows. The person who exists when the cameras are off and the stage lights are down and the in-ear monitors are out. V hinted at this distinction in a 2023 Weverse conversation, noting the difference between Taeyoung and V, the private self and the public self, and the effort required to keep both alive. RM explored this duality extensively in his solo album, Indigo, which was framed explicitly as a portrait of Kim Namjoon rather than RM, a deliberate attempt to claim personal identity within a system that constantly pulls toward the public persona. Suga's entire Augusti trilogy can be read as a years-long project of carving out private psychological space through art, saying the things under a different name that couldn't be said under the BTS banner. These aren't casual artistic choices. They're survival mechanisms. And love, private, unobserved, unmonetized, uncaptured love, may be the ultimate survival mechanism. A space where you are wanted not because you can sing or dance or sell out a stadium, but because of who you are at 3 a.m. when the fame is irrelevant. A space where your value isn't measured in album sales or brand deals, but in the simple human act of being chosen by someone who knows the version of you that the world never sees. Hiding that space isn't dishonesty. It's self-preservation in its purest form. It's a declaration, quiet, private, and fierce, that there is still something left that belongs to me. That the industry can have my time, my energy, my image, my youth, but it cannot have this. This one thing is mine. Every person on earth deserves that. The fact that we're even discussing why these 7 men have it, as if their fame obligates them to surrender it, tells us more about the world they navigate than it does about them. They're not hiding because they're ashamed. They're hiding because some things are sacred precisely because they're unseen. And there you have it, 7 reasons, each layered on top of the other, that explain why the members of BTS guard their romantic lives with such deliberate care. But before we close this out, let's take a step back and look at what we've actually uncovered here, because this story is about much more than dating secrets. We started at the structural level, the contracts. The legal frameworks that govern K-pop artists' lives with a specificity that most people outside the industry would find staggering. Clauses that don't just manage careers, but regulate personhood. The BTS members operate within these frameworks not as passive subjects, but as strategic navigators, understanding exactly where the boundaries are and how to function within them without losing themselves entirely. Then we move to institutional memory, the scars left by watching other idols' lives unravel in public. Chen's pregnancy announcement met with protest trucks. Hyuna and Adonis' honesty rewarded with termination. Kai and Jennie's private moments weaponized by a media outlet that treats surveillance as journalism. These aren't cautionary tales the BTS members read about in textbooks. They're events that happen to people in their professional community, in their generation, in some cases to people they know personally. The lessons are carved deep. We talked about protection, the understanding that revealing a partner means exposing someone you love to a level of public hostility that most people can't even conceptualize. Doxing, cyberbullying, death threats, forced relocation. These aren't hypothetical scenarios. They're documented outcomes that have followed K-pop relationship reveals with grim regularity. The members' silence on this front isn't cowardice. It's the most direct form of care available to people whose fame has become, in this specific context, a danger to anyone who gets close. We examined the group, the 7-person unit that has been the defining relationship of all their adult lives. The bond that survived near bankruptcy, global ascension, creative disagreements, mandatory military service, and the relentless pressure of being the most watched pop act in history. Protecting that bond means managing every variable that could introduce asymmetry, distraction, or fracture. Romance, in the context of a group this tightly interconnected, isn't just personal. It's structural. We looked at trust, or more precisely, the rational limits of trust in a corporate environment. Hybe is a publicly traded company with thousands of employees across multiple subsidiaries and international offices. The South Korean entertainment industry has a documented history of internal information leaks. The members aren't paranoid. They're realistic. They understand that information shared within a corporate structure is only as secure as the weakest link in that structure, and in an organization of Hybe's scale, there are a lot of links. We confronted the business model, the uncomfortable reality that K-pop's economic engine runs substantially on manufactured intimacy. The boyfriend material image isn't a side effect of fame. It's a deliberately constructed product that generates measurable revenue through parasocial engagement, merchandise sales, platform subscriptions, and brand partnerships. The members participate in this system because it's inseparable from their careers. But they also understand that a confirmed relationship would disrupt the very mechanism that sustains their commercial viability and the livelihoods of hundreds of people connected to the BTS enterprise. And finally, at the deepest level, we arrived at something that has nothing to do with industry mechanics or business strategy. The simple, irreducible human need to own something private. To have one room in the house where the cameras don't reach. To be loved not as an idol, but as a person, and to protect that love by keeping it in the only space where it can exist without being consumed by the world's attention. 7 reasons. 7 layers. And all of them pointing to the same conclusion. These are not men who are hiding out of shame or deception. These are men who have made calculated, compassionate, and deeply human decisions about where to draw the line between what they give to the world and what they keep for themselves. As fans, as ARMY, the most meaningful thing we can do with this understanding isn't to dig deeper. It isn't to speculate harder or chase rumors more aggressively. It's to do the opposite. It's to step back. To respect the boundary. To recognize that supporting someone doesn't require knowing everything about them. That love, the kind fans have for artists and the kind artists have for their partners, is healthiest when it exists with space to breathe. BTS has given ARMY more of themselves than almost any artists in modern history. They've shared their struggles, their growth, their doubts, their joy. They've been vulnerable in ways that changed the conversation about masculinity and mental health across an entire culture. They've earned the right to keep something back. So let them. If this resonated with you, drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because we'll keep bringing you content that goes beyond the surface into the stories that actually matter. See you in the next one.